Last one I want to show you is this one here that gets your name and says hi to you. The code I had from years ago wouldn't even compile anymore. I have no idea what changed, but I completely rewrote it, so it's more clear now, and let's talk about it. All right, so there's the code. It's going to be greet.asm. All right, and let me just compile it and run it. Here's the compile. And here's the load. All right, now it runs, and if I say my name is Waldo, it says hello Waldo. All right, now let's talk about this code. First, down here in the data section, I define a place for the output message, which is hello, and then a whole lot of spaces. So I'm going to fill in that with the name, and then a carriage return line feed after that. Then I have a prompt, what is your name? Carriage return line feed. It might be line feeds, carriage return, I forget which one is which. And then here's the place where your name goes, and I gave it 10 spaces. So you can have up to 10 characters in your name, and when you type in your name, it'll put it here. And all this code is going to do is move those characters up to here, which might seem like an easy thing to do, but it took me hours to debug when it was not working. All right, so this is syswrite, to just write a prompt to the user. As before, if for in EAX means syscall for, which is write. 1 is standard output, the device to write to. This is the pointer to the characters to write, and this is how many characters to write. Notice there is not a null terminator at the end of a string. There is in C. You just tell it how many bytes to write. Okay, now it's going to read, and again, it's only going to read so many bytes. So it'll only read the first 10 letters of whatever you type in, put it in your name, type 3, same kind of thing, the int 80, this is the syscall. So after this point, those variables should be filled in. I should have sent the prompt to user, and I should have got the name from the user. So actually, let's check that much in the debugger. It's probably the easiest way to see what's going on. So let's do gdb greet, and now disassemble start. You can see the code here. So here's the first syscall that prints the prompt. Here's the next syscall that reads from the user. So I'm going to put a breakpoint after that, which is start plus 44. So it's break star underscore start plus 44. It'll run just that far and then stop. So I do that. It's not going to ask me for my name. I'm going to give it AAAA. Okay, now I'm going to do info proc mappings to see the segments, and here's the text section with the code, and here's the data section with the variables, and that's what I like to look at. So I'm going to examine, since these are letters, I'm going to do, I think what worked before was 64 characters starting at that address. There, and see here is HELLO space, 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 and then carriage return line feed, or carriage, the other. All this mess up here is the output string. Hello with a bunch of spaces and then carriage return line feed. Here's the prompt, what is your name? Question mark, carriage return, line feed. Or line feed carriage return. And there, and here is the name I typed in, and as you see it filled it in, AAAA. It wrote it right there, and it put the carriage return here at the end of my name. It just regarded that as another character coming in. So this, the first 2 bits of it has succeeded. They have printed the prompt and listened to me and read my name. Now, I'm going to use the loop command here. And if you read that assembly language tutorial, it tells you about the loop command. The loop command will always use ECX as the counter, and it will assume it is above 0. So every time you execute loop, it will decrement ECX, and if it's greater than 0, it will go back and do it again up here next character. So this is the loop. So what goes on here is I put the loop counter here, which is the length of your name, and then I take the pointer to the hello message, which is the output message, and put it in EDX. And so you can see the point here is I'm going to take bytes from ESI, and I'm going to put them in EDX. And so this is going to count through the bytes. Now, since the ECX counter naturally decrements, I just decided to decrement this stuff too. So I started at the end of the name and proceeded back to the beginning. Now, the trick here, though, is when I take the name from here, I want to write it here. I don't want to write it right at the start. I want to write it after the word hello. So I start 6 or 7 characters in. So I take hello, the pointer to hello, and then I add 6 to it to get to the place where I want to put the name. Then I add the length of the name to get to the end of the name. So I end up out here somewhere, which is where I'm going to start copying the name backwards into this spot. That's the plan. And then I decremented ESI, I think, to avoid the character turn at the end. I just had to do this by hand. Before, it was off by 1. So then here's my loop. I take a byte from ESI. These are all 32-bit registers, so I'm going to read only 8 bits is all I care about. So I take a byte from the location ESI, which I just calculated to point to the end of your name, and I moved into a lower byte, and then I put a lower byte and put it in EDX, which is here. Then I decrement EDX and ESI and loop to the next character. And it took me a while to get this so it wasn't off by 1 and skipping and stuff. And then we just print out the output. So that's the logic of this program. And I'd like to show you what happens, some problems I had doing it before. Let me modify my code to show how it was broken and how I managed to fix it using the debugger. So one thing I did before, which was wrong, is I put length of, the wrong length up there. Now there's 2 lengths. There's length of hello and length of name. And I put length of hello up here. All right. And I think I didn't have this decrement at first. So let's comment that out. Let's see what this does. This should file up in some way. Okay, ABC. Oh, okay, that's interesting. It doesn't do anything. If I make a longer name, it still gets nothing at all. So that's because it's copying everything from way out the end. Now before, I managed to actually get seg faults. I tried to refer to invalid addresses, but I'm not able to reproduce the problems I had. But anyway, that's the kind of problem you'll have, and you can fix them in the debugger if you're careful. And in this case, let's see how this looks in the debugger. We should be able to see what's wrong with it. Now, if I do disassemble from the label I put in called start, I see my code, and then there's another label called next character. I just want to put a breakpoint there, break star next character. Now it'll run up to the start of the loop. So when I run it, it'll take the name, which is going to be A, B, 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 the 10 characters. You know, it hits the breakpoint, so I am now at this point here, next character. So I should be ready to go. Now, what's nice is you can do it step by step. So this should take the current letter of the name and put it in AL. So if I do info register, I'll see that EAX currently contains 10, which is not a valid character code. But if I do the next command, which is next I, it should execute this command right here. And if I look at the registers now, it contains 0, so it copied a 0. Now, if I look at the data section, which was info proc mappings here, which is x64 hexadecimal 64 characters, starting there. Then I'll see the name I put in was AAAA, BBBB, and then there are zeros out here. And what I did was I think I went too far, and I'm reading from way out here. I'm reading those zeros. But I'll be able to tell that by comparing this code because it's going to load from ESI. And I can see what ESI is. ESI is here. It's 804A056. And 56 is way off the bottom. So I can see what the problem is. It's copying not from where the name is, but from somewhere way past the name. So that's the first problem. So let's fix that. I quit the debugger and go back to here. And now I modify my code. And remember, the problem is I made this length far too long here. So let's make this length of name. And now compile it again. All right, and now debug it again. Well, let's just try running it and put in AAAA. Okay, now it's missing 1 letter from my name. It's a lot better than it was, but it's still off by 1 letter. So we can find out why by going into the debugger. and again put a break at the next character point, and run. It'll give me a name, A, B, 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 B. So I have a maximum length of length 10. So I, just for convenience. Now, if I do, I'm now at this point. If I do step, step, it'll move something. So let's start by looking at the data, which is x/64x, and this address here. So, oops, 64C for characters. Okay, there's the characters, and so I'm hoping to take this name, A, and so on, and start putting it up here after the word hello. So if I do next I and next I, that should have done that. So if I look at the data, let's see what it did. It did not put anything good up here at all. So let's see what it did. The combination of these two commands took what is an ESI and put it in EDX. So if I do info registers, ESI is pointing to 3F, and 3F is here, so it pointed to the null byte at the end, not the last letter, because I'm off by 1. So it copied the null byte off the end, and it put it in EDX, which is 804A010. So there it is. I didn't see it, but that's what it did. It copied this byte to there. Now that's not necessarily too bad. I didn't really want to do that. But anyway, if it's off by 1. I really wanted to start copying at the end of the name, not one byte past the end of the name, and that's probably why it's missing a byte. So I just need to fix that, and of course, that's what I had in my program. So if I leave this with quit, then I can go back to my source code and put back in, this is why I put in the decrement. I didn't really quite figure out why it was off by 1. I just saw it was off by 1, so I put in a decrement to get it to go to the right place. And now it'll work. Go back to the one that works. And so I can do /greet. And I can give it a whole 10 character name. B, 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 B. And it gets it right. All 10 characters show up in the right place. So that's the kind of thing. And that's how a few simple debugger commands can help. All right. So I'm going to stop this. Let me check for comments. Right, no comments. All right, so I'll stop this. I can get to it.